Johnny was feeling so he went to a call girl on the street and asked, "How much do you charge?" The call girl said, $500 for the evening. Johnny said, "Well, if I pay you $500, you will have to do it under my rules." The call girl said, "That's fine." So Johnny took her home and told her that they would close all the blinds and do it in the pitch dark. The call girl turned to him and said, "Honey, it's your money, so whatever you want is fine." They had sex, and Johnny told her to wait 10 minutes before they were to do it again. Then 10 minutes later, they did it again. After 6 times, he seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. "Johnny, you are the best lover I have ever had," she said. Then the man said, "Lady, I am not Johnny. He is outside selling your all his friends for $200 a pop." Little Johnny comes back from school, but the problem is, as soon as he gets home, he runs to his mother and says, "Mommy, I got a girlfriend!" Excited, the mother says, "That's great, Johnny. What's her name?" Little Johnny replies, "Her name is Stacy, and she's really nice. I love her." The mother is happy. She says, "That's great, honey. When do we get to meet her?" Little Johnny looks disturbed. He says, I don't think you'll meet her." Confused, the mother asks, "Why not, honey?" Little Johnny replies, "I'm really afraid Dad will get angry." The mother replies, "Don't worry, honey. He will be supportive. Trust me." Little Johnny is skeptical at first, but eventually he decides to trust his mother. And the very next day, he brought his new girlfriend, Stacy, to his house. Shortly after, he saw his father and said, "Dad, this is my new girlfriend, Stacy." The father looked her up and down and said, "What the you doing with this ugly thing? You're wasting your time. You could do a lot better than that." Little Johnny is completely embarrassed now. He says, "Come on, Dad. Stacy is a really lovely person." The father replies, "I wasn't talking to you, you stupid son of a..." On a Thursday evening, a teacher told her students that whoever could name a celebrity who said a famous quote would get Friday off. "Okay, class, who can tell me who said, 'There is nothing to fear but fear itself'?" the teacher asked. Sally excitedly shouted, "Franklin D. Roosevelt." "That's correct, Sally. You can have Friday off," the teacher responded. Sally said, "No thanks, I'm Japanese and we value our education. I'll be here tomorrow." The teacher nodded and continued. "All right, who can tell me who said, 'Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country'?" Billy shouted, "John F. Kennedy." "That's right, Billy. Enjoy your Friday off," the teacher said. Billy replied, "No thank you. I'm Mexican, and we have a strong work ethic. I'm committed to school, so I'll be here tomorrow." The teacher, slightly exasperated, said, "Well, I guess no one wants tomorrow off. Let's continue with the next lesson." As the teacher turned to write on the board, an angry Johnny mumbled from the back of the room, "Flippin' foreigners." The teacher snapped around and demanded, "Who said that?" Johnny jumped up and shouted, "Donald Trump. See you losers on Monday." Johnny was playing in his room when his dad walked in and explained that he and his mom were getting a divorce. "Why, Daddy?" asked a confused little Johnny. "Well, son," he explained, "your mother and I are no longer in love." Now more confused, little Johnny asked, "What does being in love mean?" "Let me give you an example, son. Love is when a husband rushes home from a long day at work to embrace and kiss his wife at the door. Your mom and I have lost that love." "But Daddy, I see Mommy getting excited lots of times right when you come home, so she must still be in love with you." "I don't understand, son. When has your mother recently been excited when I arrive home from work?" "Well, sometimes when Mommy is still sleeping in bed with the neighbor and you pull into the driveway, she shouts at the top of her lung, 'My husband's home! My husband's home!'" Johnny walked into a bar, but the problem is he approached the bartender and shouted, "Give me a plate of chicken wings, and then give everyone half a kilo steak and mutton, 'cause when I eat, I want everyone to eat." The whole bar was cheering for Johnny as the bartender handed him his food and everyone else their meals. The whole bar was so excited that one guy even hugged Johnny for being so generous. And then Johnny had another idea. Johnny approaches the bartender and yells, "Give me a bottle of champagne, and everybody else the most expensive whiskey bottle you got, because when I drink, I want everybody to drink." The whole bar cheers even more than last time, and the bartender hands Johnny his champagne and everybody else their expensive whiskey bottles. At this point, people started hearing that there's a generous guy buying meals and drinks for everyone, and in less than 10 minutes, the bar was filled up with people waiting for Johnny to order. Johnny ordered a few more meals to everyone, and when he was full, he shouted, "Bartender, I want you to bring everybody their bill, because when I pay mine, I want everybody to pay theirs." Little Johnny failed his law exam and decided to make a deal with his professor. Johnny asks, "Sir, do you know everything about law?" Professor says, "Yes." Johnny says, "If you can answer this question, I'll accept my final marks. If you can't, you have to give me an A." The professor agreed. Johnny then asked, "What is legal but not logical, logical but not legal, and neither legal nor logical?" The professor thought for hours but couldn't answer. He finally gave up and awarded Johnny an A. The next day, the professor posed the same question to his students. To his shock, they all raised their hands. He called on one student. Student says, "Sir, you're 65, married to a 28-year-old woman. This is legal, but not logical. Your wife is having an affair with a 23-year-old boy. This is logical, but not legal. Your wife's boyfriend failed his exam, yet you gave him an A. That's neither logical nor legal." The professor collapsed. Little Johnny's neighbor just had a baby. Sadly, the baby was born without any ears. When the mom and baby came back home from the hospital, Johnny's family was invited over to see the baby. Before they left their house, little Johnny's dad had a chat with him and explained how the baby had no ears. Johnny's dad also told him that if he went as far as mentioning anything about the baby's missing ears, or even said the word ears, he would get the beating of his life when they came back home. Little Johnny told his dad he understood and agreed not to mention the baby's lack of ears. Johnny looks in the bassinet and says, "Wow, what a beautiful baby." The mother replies, "Why, thank you, Johnny." Johnny says, "He has beautiful little feet, beautiful little hands, a cute little nose, and really beautiful eyes. Is he able to see all right?" "Yes," says the mom. "We are so grateful. The doctor said he will have perfect vision." "That is great," says little Johnny, "'cause he'd be f***ed if he needed glasses." A teacher gave her students an assignment, asking them to share a story with a moral. Little Johnny raised his hand and said, "My parents once told me a story about a bird." The teacher encouraged him to share, and Johnny began. "So there was a little bird flying south for the winter. It was so cold that the bird froze and fell to the ground in a large field. While lying there, a cow came by and pooped right on top of it. Strangely, the frozen bird in the pile of cow poop began to feel great. It laid there all cozy and happy and even started singing. Just then, a cat passing by heard the bird song and went over to investigate. The cat discovered the bird under the pile of cow poop and promptly dug him out and ate him. The teacher was stunned and asked, 'Dear God, what was the moral of that story?' Little Johnny replied, 'Well, it teaches us some valuable lessons. Not everyone who shits on you is your enemy. Not everyone who gets you out of shit is your friend. And most importantly, when you're in deep shit, it's best to keep your mouth shut.'"
Little Johnny and Jenny are only 10 years old, but they just know that they are in love. One day they decide that they want to get married, so Johnny goes to Jenny's father to ask him for her hand. Johnny bravely walks up to him and says, "Mr. Smith, me and Jenny are in love, and I want to ask you for her hand in marriage." Thinking that this was the cutest thing, Mr. Smith replies, "Well, Johnny, you're only 10. Where will you two live?" Without even taking a moment to think about it, Johnny replies, "In Jenny's room. It's bigger than mine and we can both fit there nicely." Still thinking this is just adorable, Mr. Smith says with a huge grin, "Okay, then how will you live? You're not old enough to get a job. You'll need to support Jenny." Again, Johnny instantly replies, "Our allowance. Jenny makes $5 a week and I make $10 a week. That's about $60 a month, and that should do us just fine." By this time, Mr. Smith is a little shocked that Johnny has put so much thought into this. So he thinks for a moment, trying to come up with something that Johnny won't have an answer to. After a second, Mr. Smith says, "Well, Johnny, it seems like you have got everything all figured out. I just have one more question for you. What will you do if the two of you should have little ones of your own?" Johnny just shrugs his shoulders and says, "Well, we've been lucky so far.